Greetings my friends, welcome at our second class. In our previous class we spoke about the 4 regions of the brain and also the major functions of those regions. But in today's class we're going to speak about the 4 lobes of the brain. So when it comes to the 4 regions, again the 4 regions of the brain are the cerebrum, the diencephalon, the brainstem and the cerebellum. And today we're going to focus upon the first region, which is the cerebrum. And the cerebrum is divided into 4 lobes. We're going to cover those 4 lobes and also speak about the major functions of those 4 lobes. So which are the 4 lobes of the brain? I have again my brain module here. The 4 lobes of the brain are these. The frontal lobe, this is the first lobe. The frontal lobe, this piece over here. This is called the frontal lobe. Then we got the second lobe, which is this part over here, which is called the parental lobe. Then we got our third lobe over here, which is called the occipation lobe. And then we got our fourth lobe over here, this lobe over here, which is called the temporal lobe. So again, the frontal lobe, the parental lobe, the occipation lobe over here, and the temporal lobe. So our brain is divided into 4 lobes. The frontal lobe, on your whiteboard, the frontal lobe, the parental lobe, occipation lobe, and the temporal lobe over here. So let us focus upon the frontal lobe. The frontal lobe, the functions of the frontal lobe is where your judgments take place. In this lobe over here is where your judgment takes place. So here is where you make the judgment, here is where you make your decisions. This is also called your intellect. This is also the place where your understanding comes from. In order to understand something, it takes place in the frontal lobe. Your frontal lobe is also responsible for your emotions. Okay, the frontal lobe plays a big role when it comes to your emotions. Your emotions is also another part, but also control your emotions is also called the amygdala. And the amygdala is this piece over here, this green piece over here. This is called your amygdala, and this is also responsible for your emotions and also for fear. So the amygdala is also connected to the frontal lobe. What else can we say? This is also the place where your behavior takes place. Your personality is also found in the frontal lobe. What else? Different skills. Learning is also placed in the frontal lobe. So every kind of skills like learning, developing, and also sensory processing are also taking place in the frontal lobe. Then we got also a piece over here, which is called the Broca Area. And the Broca Area, I'm going to put it over here. Scientists call this the Broca Area. This is the place where your speech takes place. So this is a part in the frontal lobe. Your Broca Area is a place where your speech takes place. What else is in your frontal lobe? We also got the central synapses, which is this part over here, which divide the frontal and the parental lobe from each other. And before the central synapses, we get the precentral gyrus. So on my brain over here, you see that this piece over here, this is called the central, this hole over here, is called the central synapses, which divide the frontal and the central lobe. And before, the frontal lobe and the parental lobe. And before the central gyrus, we got this piece over here, which is called the precentral gyrus. And the precentral gyrus is responsible for our motor output. Okay, it sends motor information. It sends information from your brain to the spinal cord and to different parts of the body. So this is where your motor output takes place, and it sends information from your brain to your peripheral nervous system and different kinds of parts of the body. So this is the precentral gyrus. Now let us focus upon the second lobe. The second lobe is called the parental lobe, this part over here. So this part here is the second lobe. It's called your parental lobe. The functions of the parental lobe is where your cognitive functions take place. It's also the place where sensory information take place. So here is where the brain is perceiving and processing sensory information. And also sensations takes also place in the parental lobes. And sensation, what I mean by that is sense of taste, sense of smell, sense of touch, all takes place in the parental lobe. Something else what takes place here is reaction. Your reaction takes place in the parental lobe. Also temperature takes place. Pain also takes place in the parental lobe. So when you feel pain, it is the parental lobe what triggers it, okay, so that you can feel it. That is the parental lobe. And on the parental lobe we also get a postenter gyrus. So we got on the front, on the side of the frontal lobe we got the precenter gyrus, which is this part, and on the front of the on the part of the parental lobe we got the postenter gyrus, which is over here. So beyond the central colossus, this piece over here, this blue piece over here, behind it we got the postenter gyrus, which on my brain is this piece over here, number 6. I don't know if you can see it. This piece over here is called the postenter gyrus. And the postenter gyrus is responsible for receiving sensory information. So I'm gonna draw something here. This is part. This is part of the parental lobe, and this is the postenter gyrus is responsible of receiving sensory information. Okay. So the precenter gyrus is where your output takes place, motor output, and your postenter gyrus is where your sensory input takes place. Sensory input. Okay. So the precenter gyrus sends information from the brain to the peripheral nervous system and also different kinds of parts of your body. And then we have the postenter gyrus, which receive sensory information from the body, and it goes to the brain, to the postenter gyrus. And also that is part of the occipation lobe. Our third lobe is the occipation lobe, which is this part over here. It's at the back of the brain. This part over here, that is called the occipation lobe. And the occipation lobe is the function of the occipation lobe is where your vision takes place. And when I talk about vision, I'm talking about things like distance, depth, color, object recognition. So people that have problems with seeing depth, they mostly have problems with their occipation lobe, because that is the place where your vision takes place. That's the part of the brain that regulates your seeing depth and color and face recognition. So if this is damaged, then you probably have problems with seeing color or depth or object recognition. The occipation lobe is also the place where our movement takes place, or face recognition, memory information is also stored in the occipation lobe. And oh yeah, by the way, small children and babies, when they are small, babies and children, their occipation lobe is not fully developed, and that's why when they go, I'm gonna give you an example. That's why when they go in the dark, like let me say something like this, when they go in a car and it's very dark and they have to grab an object, mostly the baby or the child doesn't know what the object is because it's very dark and you cannot see it. But we as adults, when we go into the car, and imagine it's very dark and you have to seek for your keys, and you go into the car and it's so dark you see nothing, so you're just feeling, and suddenly you feel something, and it's not your key but it is a bottle. And you cannot see that it is a bottle, but you just feel it and you just know that this is a bottle what you have in your hand. The way how this works is this is part of the occipital lobe, which also has a function of object recognition. So with adults, this is fully developed. With children, this is not developed, so that's why it's important, for a child to do a lot of things, training or puzzles, to train his object recognition, to develop it in more better, so that the child can grow the occipation lobe more stronger. They can develop it more stronger. So babies and newborns and children, still have to develop the occipation lobe. So that's why they have problems with, this object recognition and other kinds of things. Not only the occipation lobe, but also different parts of the brain, they still have to develop. So other parts like learning and understanding, that will also develop, step by step and step. Okay. On our occipation lobe, we got also a small part what scientists call the Wernicke's area. Wernicke's area. And the Wernicke's area is where your vocabulary understanding takes place. So this is the place where vocabulary understanding takes place. And also learning languages takes also place. Then we got our third lobe, which is called the temporal lobe. And the function of the temporal lobe, so this part over here, I can also take it apart. This part over here, this is called your temporal lobe. Okay, it's part of the brain. And this is the place where your hearing takes place, your memory takes place, visual perception, smell, all those things take place in the temporal lobe. Okay, so we hear with our ears, and our ears are connected to the temporal lobe. And this is the place where the function is mostly about hearing and visual perception. All take place in the temporal lobe. Oh, and by the way, the brain is also crosswired. So this means that the right hemisphere of your cerebral cortex control the left side of your body. It controls the left side of your body, which means that the right hemisphere control your left hand, and also your left feet, and also your left eye. And the left hemisphere of the cerebral cortex, of the cerebrum, controls the right side of your body, which means the right eye, the right hand, and also your right feet. It controls the right side of your body. Okay, so left hemisphere controls the right side of your body, and the right hemisphere controls the left side of your body. So the brain is crosswired. And not only the hemisphere, but also the same is also with the temporal lobe. The temporal lobe is also crosswired. So the right temporal lobe controls the left ear of your body, and the left temporal lobe controls the right ear of your body. The same is also with the cerebellums. We already covered this in our previous lesson where we spoke about the cerebellums. But the cerebellums also consists out of two hemispheres. You got a left hemisphere and a right hemisphere. So the right hemisphere controls the left side of your body, and the left hemisphere controls the left side of your body. So that's today's class, my friends. I hope that you enjoy it. So again, these are the 4 lobes of the brain, and these are the major functions of the brain. I hope that you enjoy it. I just try to make the classes as short as possible, and try to make it very simple so that you can understand it. I can also go more deeper than this, but I just wanted to make it very simple, that each one of you can understand this. And it's very simple. And the reason again why I give these classes is because we have upcoming classes where we will connect the brain to the gospel, where we can connect the brain to the Bible, and we're gonna see that when God created the brain, when He created us, He put a divine signature in us. And I know that I cannot give that sermon because most of us will not understand that sermon. So that's why I decided first to give some classes so that you can understand the major functions of the brain. You can understand how the brain works, and the major structure of the brain. And then when we come with the upcoming classes, then you can understand at least what I'm talking about, because we're gonna go very deep, step by step by step. So once again, thank you for watching, and may God bless you, and I hope to see you again at our third class.